The dream always began the same way beneath a silver moon that bled across the dark forest, painting the trees in ghostly light. Her bare feet touched the cold earth, but she wasn't human here. Her wolf prowled restlessly beneath her skin, claws itching, heart racing. And then she heard it, a voice, low and commanding, curling like smoke through the night. Mine, it wasn't her thought, it was his, the one destiny whispered of, the mate she could never claim, the alpha she was bound to by fate, and cursed to destroy if she ever surrendered. Her wolf howled inside her, desperate, hungry, aching for what she had been forbidden. But she clenched her fists, nails cutting into her palms. No, not him, never him. The prophecy echoed like a wound she couldn't close. A child born of forbidden blood will either save the alpha or bring his ruin. She woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, heart pounding as though the dream had chased her back into reality. The moon still hung outside her window, pale and accusing. Her wolf still whispered his name. Her life had been built on one fragile rule: never let him see, never let him know. If she kept her distance, if she pretended hatred, perhaps destiny would turn its eyes away. But deep inside, her wolf never listened. Her wolf wanted him, always him, and every day, every night, every stolen glance when she thought no one was watching. She felt herself breaking. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, whispering to the night as though it could silence her heart. I can't want him. I can't. Yet her wolf stirred again, hot and alive beneath her skin, answering with a single truth she could never run from. But you already do, and somewhere out there, beneath that same cursed moon, the alpha's gaze lifted, restless, as though he too had felt the pull, the girl who shouldn't exist, and the alpha she could never have. Fate was already moving, and no amount of hatred could stop it. The night of the gathering hummed with restless energy. Torches lined the courtyard of the pack house, their flames licking at the cool autumn air. Wolves shifted restlessly in their human forms, laughter and murmurs weaving into the music that carried across the clearing. She stood at the edge of the crowd, arms folded as though she wanted nothing to do with the celebration. And maybe that was true, or maybe it was the only shield she had left. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, uneasy, because he was here, the alpha. She felt him before she saw him, the low ripple of authority in the air, the way every conversation faltered when his steps sounded on the stones. Her heart betrayed her, slamming against her ribs, as if it knew who was coming. And then his eyes found her. Steel, gray, sharp and unrelenting, they cut through the crowd until the noise around her vanished into silence. Heat rushed to her cheeks, her breath caught. Her wolf leapt forward, desperate, joyful, mate. She gritted her teeth, shoving the word back where it belonged. Buried, she tilted her chin higher, forcing her expression into something cold, something hard. Hatred was safer than longing. Hatred was believable. He didn't look away, not for a heartbeat, not for a breath, and the longer his gaze lingered, the more her resolve splintered. Finally, he crossed the clearing, the crowd parting instinctively to make way for him. His presence was magnetic, commanding. Every woman stole glances. Every man bowed his head. He didn't slow until he stood in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body. "You're late," he said, voice low, edged with something that wasn't quite accusation, but wasn't kindness either. "I wasn't aware you kept time on me, Alpha." She let the word drip with venom, though her wolf preened at the title. A flicker of amusement touched his lips, gone in an instant. "I keep time on everyone." His eyes narrowed, scanning her face as though trying to peel away the mask she wore. Her wolf pushed against her chest, demanding she step closer, demanding she surrender. But she stayed rooted, fists tight at her sides. Their silence stretched taut and heavy until a voice broke it. Someone calling out, whispering about the alpha's stare, about what it might mean, about the bond. Her stomach sank, whispers spread like wildfire, too fast to catch, and the alpha's gaze, it didn't soften. If anything, it hardened, as though he already knew what storm was coming. The courtyard's laughter dimmed into a low hush as the whispers swelled. The alpha looked at her, too long, too intently. Speculation spread like sparks across dry grass, dangerous, uncontrollable. She felt the weight of every eye on her, their gazes sharp with curiosity, envy, or disgust. Her wolf thrashed inside, torn between pride and dread. They know, they'll see, he'll claim us. But when she turned her head toward him, searching for a flicker of recognition, of acceptance, all she found was ice. The Alpha's jaw was set like stone, his expression carved into something ruthless. He stepped forward, voice carrying easily across the clearing. "She is not mine." The words struck harder than any physical blow. Her chest seized, air stolen from her lungs. The crowd gasped, a ripple of disbelief passing through them. But he wasn't finished. He wanted them all to hear. "I reject any bond the moon may suggest between us. Whatever whispers you've heard, forget them." His gaze locked on her, sharp as a blade, daring her to defy him. "She is nothing to me." For a moment, silence ruled. The fire crackled, a log split, and the night seemed to lean closer, listening. Her wolf howled in agony, the sound only she could hear, echoing in her skull. The rejection tore through her, severing, burning, leaving her hollow, but she would not break. Not here, not before them all. Slowly, deliberately, she forced a bitter smile onto her lips. "Good," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor beneath it, "because the last thing I'd want is to be shackled to you." Gasps rippled again, but this time they belonged to the pack members who couldn't believe anyone would dare spit venom at their Alpha. His eyes darkened. For a breath, she thought she saw something. Pain, conflict, something human. But then it was gone, buried beneath iron. He turned from her, dismissing her as though she truly meant nothing. The rejection was sealed, final. But her wolf wouldn't stop clawing at her insides, screaming for him, aching for what had been denied. She wrapped her arms around herself, not for warmth, but to keep the pieces of her from spilling out onto the stones. Around her murmurs rose, cruel and pitying alike. The Alpha rejected her. "Didn't you hear? He said she's nothing. Poor thing. Or maybe she deserved it." She swallowed the lump in her throat, lifting her chin once more. If she let them see her pain, she'd truly be destroyed. The flames flickered in the courtyard, shadows dancing across her face. But deep inside, her wolf whispered through the hurt, a defiant vow. "We are his, no matter what he says." And for the first time, she wondered if rejection would be enough to keep destiny at bay, or if fate would find another way to bind them, through pain, through fire, through something neither of them could yet imagine. The night air bit against her skin as she fled the courtyard. She didn't care where her feet carried her, only that she had to escape the stares, the whispers, the suffocating truth of his words. The forest welcomed her like an old friend, shadows swallowing her whole as she slipped between the trees. Here, away from the pack's eyes, she could breathe, or at least she could try. Her wolf pressed against her, restless, wounded. Why did he do it? Why would he cast us aside? She dropped to her knees, fingers digging into the damp earth, trembling. Because he had to. She whispered to no one, her voice breaking. Because if he chose me, they'd all know. The ground pulsed faintly beneath her palms, a familiar thrum that answered her bloodline, her secret, the truth she could never let them discover. Closing her eyes, she let the shift ripple through her. Not fully, not enough to reveal the beast beneath her skin, but enough to feel the edge of her wolf's true form, and it was not like theirs. When her wolf rose, silver fire laced her veins, burning through her like starlight. Her fur shimmered faintly, her eyes glowed too bright, her claws carried a power the old stories called cursed. Descendant of a bloodline thought wiped out generations ago, too dangerous, too unpredictable. If the pack knew, they wouldn't just reject her, they would hunt her. Her chest heaved as she forced it back, biting down on the surge until her body calmed, until the dangerous light dimmed. She curled in on herself, forehead pressed to her knees, the forest eerily silent around her. No one could ever know. Not the Alpha, not the pack, not even the friends she once trusted, especially not him, because fate had already spoken her doom. Her power could either destroy him or save him. And she couldn't let either happen. A twig snapped in the dark, her head jerked up, eyes flashing. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw movement between the trees, a shadow watching, waiting, but when she blinked, the night was empty. Still, Unease slithered down her spine. Perhaps it was only her imagination, or perhaps her secret was already closer to being discovered than she dared admit. She wiped her tears, dragging in a shaky breath, and stood. The mask of hatred would have to stay. If anyone glimpsed the truth, she would lose everything, but the harder she tried to bury it, the more her wolf whispered one dangerous truth back into her bones. "He was meant to see you, all of you." Dawn broke over the training grounds, mist curling low across the packed dirt. The clang of weapons and the bark of commands filled the air as warriors sparred, sweat and steel tangling beneath the rising sun. She tightened the wraps around her hands, ignoring the sting where her nails had bitten into her skin the night before. A new day, a new mask. Hatred would have to carry her through, but fate was merciless. Because he was there towering, commanding, every line of his body radiating control. The Alpha. His voice cut across the grounds, steady as thunder, assigning sparring partners until his gaze landed on her. "You with me." Her gut twisted. Around them, the warriors glanced at one another, uneasy. No one dared question him, not even after the rejection that still hung heavy in the pack's whispers. She stepped forward, every muscle taut, forcing a smirk. Careful, Alpha wouldn't want anyone mistaking this for favoritism. His eyes darkened, though his lips curved into something dangerously close to a smile. "Trust me," he murmured low, "no one here thinks I favor you." They circled each other, tension coiled thick as rope. Her wolf clawed beneath her skin, desperate to close the distance, to feel him, but her human heart clung to fury instead. He struck first, fast, precise. She dodged, countered, her body alive with the rhythm of combat. Blow for blow, they moved like fire meeting fire, every strike sparking against the bond they both pretended not to feel. Sloppy, he taunted when her fist missed his jaw by inches. Arrogant, she spat back, ducking his sweep and slamming her shoulder into his chest. He stumbled half a step, surprise flashing in his eyes. Their breaths came quick, faces too close, heat sparking where their skin brushed. For one charged moment, the fight dissolved, leaving only the raw pull between them. Her wolf howled inside, triumphant, urging her to close the inch of space. His gaze dropped to her lips, her heart thundered, and then she jerked back, breaking the spell, shoving him hard enough to sever the moment. "I'd rather lose than give you the satisfaction," she hissed. A muscle ticked in his jaw, but he didn't chase her retreat. Instead, his voice cut low, rougher than before. "You can lie to yourself all you want, little wolf, but your body doesn't hate me half as much as you claim." Her cheeks burned, her chest heaved, and she spun away before he could see the truth in her eyes, but the echo of almost, a kiss denied, a bond resisted, burned hotter than any victory. The forest was too quiet. She had lingered after training, hoping the solitude would cool the storm inside her chest, but the woods pressed in heavy and watchful, and her wolf's ears twitched with unease. A twig snapped. She spun, fists raised, breath sharp, too late. A blur of movement lunged from the shadows, claws glinting in the slant of moonlight. A rival pack's scent slammed into her nose, sour and acrid. Her body reacted before her mind caught up. She ducked, rolled, struck back, but there were more of them, 3, maybe 4. Teeth bared, eyes burning with malice, little outcast. One sneered, circling her. "Not so tough without your alpha protecting you." Her wolf roared inside, begging her to unleash the power she kept buried. But she couldn't, not here, not where eyes could see and tongues could spread her secret. She swung, landed a blow, but another seized her arm, wrenching it back. Pain seared through her shoulder. A growl tore from her throat, half human, half wolf. And then he was there. The alpha burst into the clearing like a storm, gray eyes blazing, his wolf just beneath the surface. His roar shook the trees, scattering leaves, freezing her attackers mid-strike. "Mine!" The word ripped from him before he could stop it. In the chaos that followed, he fought with lethal precision. One by one, the intruders fell back, bloodied, scrambling into the night until only silence remained. Her chest heaved, knees weak, adrenaline burning through her veins. She wanted to tell him she didn't need saving, that she could have handled it. But the truth sat heavy in her bones. Without him, she might not have walked away. He reached for her, fingers brushing her arm where the skin was already bruising. The gentleness undid her more than the fight had. "You should have called for me," he said, voice low, rough with fury, and something else. "I don't call for you," she snapped, though her voice trembled. "I don't need you." His jaw tightened, but his hand didn't drop. His thumb brushed lightly against her skin, a touch so careful it betrayed the lie of his rejection. His wolf surged close enough for her to feel the heat of him, the bond thrumming electric in the air. Her wolf pressed forward, desperate to close the distance, to surrender. She hated herself for it. "Don't look at me like that," she whispered, backing away, her breath shaky. Like what? His eyes were dark, storm, tossed, drinking her in as though she were the only thing he'd ever wanted. "Like I belong to you." Silence fell. The night itself seemed to hold its breath. And then he stepped closer, close enough that the scent of pine and storm wrapped around her. His voice rough silk against her ear. "Because you do." Her heart stuttered, her wolf howled, and she fled before the truth shattered the last of her fragile defenses. The whispers started the very next morning. She could feel them on her skin as she walked through the village, the sharp stares, the muffled laughter, the weight of cruel curiosity. News traveled faster than the wind in a pack, and someone had seen her in the forest. Someone had seen her with him. Her jaw clenched as she pushed past two wolves who didn't bother to hide their sneers. "Did you hear? The alpha had to rescue her, again. She'll cling to him until he finally tosses her out." The words slid like poison through her veins. She wanted to bare her teeth, to let her wolf silence them. But she swallowed it down. She had survived worse. She could survive this, or so she thought. That evening, a folded piece of parchment was slipped under her door. Her pulse kicked hard as she read the words scrawled in a hand she didn't recognize. "We know what you're hiding. One word from us, and the alpha will see you for what you really are." Her wolf bristled, snarling inside her head. She tore the note to shreds, but it didn't matter. The threat had sunk its claws deep. When she stepped outside, the alpha was waiting. He leaned against a wooden post as though he'd been there for hours, his storm, gray eyes fixed on her like he could sense the fear she was trying so hard to mask. "You're trembling," he said quietly. "I'm fine." Her voice was sharp, defensive, his gaze darkened. "You're not fine, something happened." She shook her head, desperate. If he knew, if he even guessed at the truth of her bloodline, the mark she kept hidden, everything would crumble. Better his rejection than his disgust. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so no one could overhear. "Whoever touched you, whoever threatened you, I'll make them regret it." Her breath hitched. The way he said it, with that raw, protective fury, made her heart ache. But the danger was too great. If she let him fight for her, if she let him close, her secret would come to light. So she lied. "No one touched me. You imagine threats where there are none." His jaw flexed, but his wolf wasn't convinced. She could see it in his eyes, the way they glowed faintly, reading every tremor in her body. He leaned down, his mouth close enough that she felt the heat of his words against her skin. "Lie to everyone else if you want, but don't lie to me." The bond thrummed between them, undeniable. Her wolf clawed inside her chest, desperate to answer his call. She bit down on the need, forcing herself to turn away, because if he knew what the note said, if he knew the truth of who she was, it wouldn't just be her heart that shattered. It would be his entire pack. The full moon bled silver over the training grounds, painting every shadow with sharp edges. The pack had gathered for night drills, but her skin prickled for another reason. The note still burned in her memory, those words that promised to expose her. She kept her eyes on the dirt beneath her boots, but she could feel him watching. The alpha's gaze never strayed far, no matter how many warriors surrounded them. His presence was fire against her skin. Her wolf clawed forward, restless, drawn to him despite the rejection that still scorched her soul. "Focus." His voice was low as he stepped behind her, correcting her stance with one firm hand on her shoulder. The touch sent lightning racing through her. She stiffened, pretending she hated it, pretending she hated him, but her wolf wasn't pretending. Her pulse thundered as he leaned close, his breath brushing her ear. "You're distracted. I don't need your help." She forced the words out, but they sounded weak even to her own ears. A sparring match began around them, warriors clashing, but the world narrowed to the heat of his hand, the power of his nearness. The bond hummed, wild and hungry, until she couldn't tell if she was shaking from anger or desire. Then the moment snapped. From the edge of the shadows, she caught sight of him, her blackmailer, a rival pack wolf, leaning casually against a tree, his grin sharp and knowing. He was watching her, waiting. Panic surged. If the alpha touched her again, if she let herself lean into that pull with eyes upon them, the secret would be ripped from her grasp. She wrenched away from the alpha so fast it startled him. His brows drew together. "What are you hiding from me? Nothing." She bit out, her heart racing. She grabbed a blade from the rack and forced herself into the sparring circle, desperate for distraction, desperate for distance. But he didn't let it go. His wolf surged forward, eyes flashing silver as he followed, cornering her until she had no choice but to meet his gaze. "You're lying again." His voice was a growl, soft enough for only her to hear, but it vibrated with primal demand. Her lips parted, words on the edge of breaking free, her secret, her fear, her longing. But from the tree line, that rival wolf gave her the smallest of nods, a silent reminder of the trap he'd set. Her chest tightened. She couldn't betray herself. She couldn't betray the alpha, not yet. So she swallowed the truth, forced a glare, and spat the only defense she had left. "I'd rather die than tell you." The alpha's eyes burned brighter, a storm rising in them that promised he wouldn't let this go. Not tonight, not ever. The night had been restless, the training drills dragged long past exhaustion. She had managed to avoid his gaze after that heated confrontation, but the alpha's presence clung to her like smoke, suffocating, unavoidable. When the call of alarm tore through the pack grounds, it came like thunder. Rogues, a guard shouted, panic slicing the night. The air erupted with snarls and shouts, warriors rushing to arms. Her heart jolted as shadows surged from the tree line. Dozens of wolves, feral and bloodthirsty. Their eyes glowed a sickly yellow, mouths dripping with hunger. She drew her blade without hesitation, forcing her fear down. Around her, pack members shifted mid. Run, fur exploding over skin as they lunged to protect their territory. And then she saw him, the alpha already half-shifted, his wolf breaking free with a guttural roar that rattled the earth. He was breathtaking, power incarnate, fury given flesh. He tore into the first wave, but there were too many. The blackmailer's grin flashed in her memory. One wrong move, and I'll tell them what you are. But as she watched the alpha struggle beneath a crushing wave of rogues, her wolf slammed into her chest, howling. The choice was ripped from her, no more hiding. She whispered, voice breaking. Her body trembled as her wolf surged forward. Different, ancient, radiant. When her shift came, it wasn't like the others. Her fur shimmered with silver streaks, eyes glowing with the mark of her bloodline. The battlefield stilled for one stunned heartbeat. Gasps erupted from the pack. Goddess above. Someone whispered. "She's cursed," but there was no time for fear. She lunged, her wolf stronger than she'd ever dared to unleash. She tore through the rogues with impossible speed, ripping them from the alpha's back, her body shielding his with reckless defiance. The two of them fought back to back, his brute force and her unearthly power fusing into something unstoppable. Every strike, every snarl drew them closer, until the bond between them burned hot and undeniable in the chaos of blood and moonlight. When the last rogue fled into the trees, silence fell heavy. The pack stared, their eyes not on their victorious alpha, but on her. Her chest heaved, her silver, marked fur shimmering in the moonlight. Shame and terror clawed at her, but her wolf stood proud, unwilling to bow. The alpha shifted back first, bloodied but unyielding. His gaze locked on her, fierce and unreadable. "What are you?" a pack warrior muttered, fear in his tone. Others murmured agreement, their suspicion like a knife twisting in her gut. She shifted back slowly, trembling, clutching the remnants of her torn shirt around her. Her skin still glowed faintly with the wolf's mark, betraying what she had always hidden. Her voice cracked, but before she could speak, the alpha moved. He stepped between her and the pack, shoulders squared, a growl rippling through him that silenced the whispers. His eyes blazed silver as he snarled, "She is mine to answer for." Her heart stopped. He had rejected her, he had humiliated her, but now He was claiming her not as his mate, not yet, but as something even more dangerous. The pack had dispersed reluctantly, fear still etched into their whispers. Some avoided her eyes as though she carried a curse. Others stared with open suspicion. But none dared challenge the Alpha's command. She is mine to answer for. She sat at the edge of the pack house, trembling, pulling her knees tight against her chest. Her secret was no longer hers, the world knew now, and worse, the one she had pretended to despise knew too. Boots crunched against the gravel behind her. She didn't have to turn, his scent, cedar smoke and iron, wrapped around her like chains. "You should have told me," he said, voice low, hoarse from the battle. Her throat tightened, "and what would you have done? Rejected me all over again. Cast me out in front of everyone." His silence cut deeper than words. When she dared to glance back, his eyes glowed faint silver, his wolf prowling just beneath the surface. His hands clenched at his sides as though holding himself together by force. "You don't understand," he muttered. "My wolf, he won't stop, he wants you." Her breath hitched. For years she had hidden her longing behind sharp words and colder stares. To hear him admit it was unbearable. "You told me you didn't want me," she whispered. "You made sure the whole pack knew it. I thought I could fight it." His voice cracked with raw honesty, rough as gravel. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "But every time I look at you, every time you breathe near me, my wolf, he tears at me, demanding I claim you." Her heart pounded so loud it drowned the night's crickets. She shook her head, refusing to let hope take root. "You already made your choice. Don't torture me now." He knelt suddenly, closing the space between them. His hand hovered just shy of her cheek, trembling as if a single touch might unravel him completely. "You don't get it," he growled, voice raw. "I'm already tortured. I rejected you in front of everyone, but it's killing me. My wolf doesn't care about pride. He doesn't care about rules. He only knows you're his." Her wolf howled an answer inside her chest, clawing to be closer, to bridge the space. But she pressed her nails into her palms, fighting it. "If you mean it," she whispered, her voice breaking, "then prove it when it matters, not in shadows, not in secret." A storm flickered in his eyes. For a moment, she thought he might close the distance, kiss her, undo every wound. But instead, he drew back, fists trembling, jaw locked in torment. "I will," he vowed, voice like a promise carved in stone. "When the time comes, I'll prove it." Then he was gone, leaving her shaking, torn between dread and desperate hope. The morning came restless and gray, the pack on edge. Whispers rippled like poison through the halls of the pack house. Some called her dangerous, others murmured that she was marked by the goddess herself. But all eyes turned to the Alpha, waiting for his decree. He gave them none. Instead, he stood silent, brooding, his jaw locked, every movement heavy with restraint. His wolf paced beneath his skin like a caged storm. And though she kept to the shadows, she felt the weight of his gaze wherever she went. It was just before dusk when the first horn sounded. Sharp, urgent, the signal of war. The rival pack had come. From the northern border, the sound of snarls carried through the wind, followed by the clash of steel. Warriors rushed to arms, shifting mid-sprint, their howls echoing through the trees. She froze, torn between the fear of being seen as a curse and the primal pull to protect. But when she caught sight of him, the Alpha striding forward at the head of his warriors, his back unprotected, her wolf surged, leaving her no choice. She shifted, the battle was chaos. Blood stained the soil, claws ripped through fur, the air filled with the scream of steel and the thundering of paws. She fought her way to his side, her silver, marked wolf a blaze of light against the storm of bodies. "Stay back," he snarled through the mind. Link, his wolf voice sharp with command, but she ignored him. When one of the rival alphas lunged, aiming for his throat, she intercepted, taking the blow meant for him. Pain tore through her shoulder, hot and merciless, but she didn't stop. Her wolf rose higher, burning brighter, tearing the enemy back with a force that silenced the battlefield. Gasps rang even in the middle of war. The silver fire in her eyes, the unnatural strength in her strikes. It wasn't normal, it was otherworldly. Her secret wasn't just exposed now, it was undeniable. The rival alpha snarled, circling. "So it's true, the cursed bloodline lives." His voice dripped venom. "She doesn't belong here." She belongs to us. The alpha at her side growled so deep it rattled the earth. She belongs to no one but me. The words tore through her, raw and impossible. She stumbled, stunned, as his wolf lunged, clashing with the rival alpha in a storm of fury. She had never seen him fight like this, not only for his pack but for her. Her wound burned, her strength wavered, but she pushed through, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. Together they turned the tide. When the enemy fled at last, leaving the ground littered with bodies and blood, silence fell heavy again. The pack stared at her glowing wolf, then at their alpha. And then he said it, loud enough for every soul to hear, voice thundering with finality. She is mine, my mate, my equal, and if anyone dares to call her cursed again, they will answer to me. The pack dropped their gazes, subdued. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break. For years she had pretended to hate him. For years he had denied her. But tonight, beneath the bloodied moon, there was no denying anything anymore. The battlefield smelled of iron and smoke. The cries of the wounded faded into the distance as healers rushed among the fallen. But she stood frozen, her wolf still bristling, her heart pounding against her ribs. He had said it in front of everyone, she is mine. The words replayed, echoing louder than the screams of war, louder than her own doubts. For years, she had worn hatred like armor, had sharpened her tongue to keep him at bay, had told herself she didn't want what her wolf craved. But now there was no shield left. He approached her slowly, his body bloodied, his eyes burning with that relentless silver glow. His wolf was still near the surface, restless, insistent, but his voice, when he spoke, was raw and human. I should never have rejected you. Her breath caught. I thought I could protect you by pushing you away. I thought I could control it. He stopped just a step away, chest heaving, pain and desire tangled in his gaze. But I can't, not anymore, not after tonight. You stood at my side when you could have run. You bled for me when I gave you nothing but cruelty, and my wolf, he would rather die than let you go again. Her throat ached, her wolf howling with joy and fury inside her. But she still whispered, broken and afraid, how can I trust this? You made me hate you. You made me hate myself. His jaw tightened. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then, with a quiet, deliberate movement, he bared his neck to her, exposing the most vulnerable part of him. An alpha never yielded, never submitted. Yet here he was, giving her the choice. The pack gasped around them, but he didn't move. His voice dropped to a whisper meant for her alone. If you never want me, if you never want us, I'll live with that. But if you want the truth, it's always been you, even when I was too much of a coward to admit it. Her chest broke open. The hatred, the walls, the years of pretending, they all crumbled beneath the weight of what her wolf had known all along. Tears stung her eyes as she reached out, fingers trembling, and touched his jaw. He flinched, then leaned into her hand as though it was the only thing keeping him alive. Her wolf surged forward, victorious at last, and she whispered the words she'd sworn never to say, "You're mine too." Gasps rippled again as she pressed her lips to his, sealing the bond that had been denied for too long. Their wolves howled together, their scents twining, the mate bond snapping into place with a force that stole her breath. It was fire. It was home. It was everything she had tried to bury. When they pulled apart, the world was different. The pack bowed, the whispers silenced, and for the first time in years, she felt whole. No more pretending, no more hate, only the truth burning between them under the broken moon. She was his, he was hers, and nothing could tear them apart again. The forest was quiet again. Weeks had passed since the battle, and the scars of war were slowly fading, both on the land and in their hearts. She stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the pack train under the pale glow of morning light. The whispers that once branded her cursed had softened into reverence, respect. Where once there was fear, now there was loyalty. The sound of footsteps approached, steady and sure. His presence reached her before his touch did, that familiar mix of cedar and steel, threaded now with something warmer, something that was hers. "You're supposed to be resting," he murmured, sliding his arm around her waist, drawing her back against his chest. "I was never good at sitting still," she replied, a smile tugging her lips, Besides, I like watching them. They don't look at me the same way anymore. His hand tightened over hers. They shouldn't. You saved them. You saved me. She turned, searching his face, the alpha who had once been her enemy, her greatest torment, her forbidden desire. Now, when she looked at him, she only saw home. You saved me too, she whispered. The bond between them thrummed warm and alive, no longer a chain of longing and denial, but a thread of strength that wove them together. She could feel his wolf inside her now, not separate but entwined with her own, always near, always hers. The pack's howl rose suddenly in the distance, signaling the moonrise. He lifted her hand, kissed her knuckles, then leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. Walk with me. They strolled through the woods, the world bathed in silver. At the crest of the hill, the moon rose fully, vast and luminous. He pulled her close, his voice soft but unyielding. I spent too long fighting you, but the truth is, you've always been mine, and now the whole world knows it. Her heart swelled, her wolf howled with joy, and she let herself lean into the warmth of his chest. For once, there was no fear of being seen, no secrets, no pretending, only the moon above, the bond between them, and a future wide open before them. Together, they lifted their heads to the sky, and their wolves howled as one, strong, unbroken, eternal, and this time it wasn't longing, it was forever.